here's something that doesn't add up. Every year, thousands of motivated, physically capable men show up for selection. They've been training for months, some for years. Their discipline is real, their commitment is real, and between 70 and 82% of them don't make it. If effort were the variable, the people who work the hardest would succeed. That's not the case, which means the problem isn't effort. The problem is what lies beneath the effort. My name's Charles. I'm a former French Marine commando, a selection where 8% of candidates who show up actually succeed. Only 15 to 30 people selected per year. I'm going to show you exactly what that gap is and why it eliminates candidates who had every reason to pass. In a moment, I'll show you the one preparation variable that eliminates more candidates than any physical test. It's not cardio, it's not strength, it's not toughness or mindset. I'll also show you why the hardest working candidates often fail faster than those who train 30% less. And I'll tell you about a conversation with a Navy SEAL in Iraq that changed how I think about selection prep. But first, this isn't for everyone. It's for the candidate who's already training, already disciplined, already committed to a pipeline like SOF, BUDS, SFA, AES, or any other elite unit. You're doing the work, but there's a question underneath it all that you can't seem to silence. Is what I'm doing really built for what selection tests? If that's you, stay with me. If you're looking for motivation or a generic program, this isn't it. After my THP journey as an operator, I moved to the other side as an instructor. And here's what I discovered. Something I'd never seen as a candidate or an operator. The candidates who fail aren't the weakest. Those who fail are often the hardest workers, the ones who train the most, the ones who wanted it the most. And they fail at a specific moment, not during the physical tests, but during the recovery windows in between. Day 1, they perform. Day 3, they slow down. Day 4, they start making decisions differently. Day 6, their body does something their training never prepared them for, performing in a state of degradation. And here's what no one tells you. Selection doesn't measure your peak, it measures your ability to sustain a high level of demand. The hardest workers built the highest peak, but they never trained their ability to sustain it, because every training methodology they had access to was built for single session performance, not multi-day attrition. That's the structural blind spot. You can run a sub 6-minute mile, max out body weight and strength, finish a 12-mile ruck on time, but if your prep never systematically trained recovery, effort management, and cognitive function under cumulative fatigue, you'll hit a wall on day 3 that no amount of extra physical training could have prevented. That's what I've seen happen to hundreds of candidates. And that's why we built SFT. Let me tell you where this understanding really comes from. First joined the Marine Commandos at 19, not through a traditional path, but through a selection where 8% of people who showed up, already trained, already motivated, actually succeeded. I was one of them. 10 years as an operator, including 4 years in a specialized intel and long-range sniper group, operations in Africa, the Middle East, and then Iraq. During joint ops with Navy SEALs in the Middle East, one of them asked me a direct question after a few days together. How do you guys prepare for deployment? Because the way your team functions over several days, we don't train for it the same way. He wasn't criticizing his own system, he was noting a difference. We come from selections that impose a certain way of working, built around consistency over several days rather than a single day peak. That's what our pipelines demand, and over time it shapes how you prepare. This methodology doesn't just belong to French selections. It applies to any elite pipeline, and that's what we're bringing here. After 10 years as an operator, I moved to the other side. I became a selection instructor, and that's when everything changed. As a candidate, you experience selection from the inside. Either make it or you don't. You only see one data point, yourself. As an instructor, you watch hundreds of candidates go through the same process, and you start to see the pattern. The candidates who failed weren't weak, they lacked structure. Their prep was built for performance, not for attrition, not for the level needed throughout the entire selection process. That's when I realized something I wouldn't have known as a candidate or an operator. The question then became, why doesn't this preparation system exist for candidates? Most coaches in this space are former operators who know how to perform. They don't know why others fail because they've only seen their own experience. Being an instructor changes what you see, so we built what didn't exist. For over 2 years in France, Marine Commandos, GIN, First RPIM, CPA-10, we've had the chance to prepare over 140 candidates for these special units, the most demanding in France. And since last year, with a small group, we've prepared US military preparing for BUDS, FAS, RASP, or AES. Principles are universal. Sleep deprivation, cumulative fatigue, decision-making under stress. It doesn't change regardless of the flag you wear. What changes is that we bring a methodology the US market has never seen, built on a more systemic European tradition, tested in the selection with a 92% attrition rate. It's not a disadvantage. The SEALs in Iraq were the first to notice it. Here's what happens when your endurance and limits are trained, not just the peak. Periodized physical prep for your specific selection calendar, not generic fitness, but specific capacity for specific demands on specific days. Integrated nutrition from day 1, not as an option. The fueling strategy is part of the architecture. Recovery nutrition, fueling for high-intensity days, managing multi-day events. Mental performance trained directly, not as a byproduct, but as a specific skill. Stress inoculation, attentional control, decision-making under cumulative fatigue. The result? You don't just perform on day one, you perform again and again until the end of selection. We've seen it with over 140 candidates in France. The chain is the same regardless of the pipeline. If what I've shown you so far makes sense and you want to see if it's the right fit, the link to apply is in the description. The rest of this video shows you exactly what the system contains. There are 3 ways to build this architecture. First, do it yourself. Research periodization, build a nutrition strategy from scratch, study cognitive performance, and integrate all 3 into one program calibrated to your selection date. It works, but it takes 1 to 2 years to do it right. Most candidates don't have that kind of time. Second, trial and error. Test programs, see what works, and adjust. That's what most candidates do. That's why the 70 to 80% failure rate stays stable year after year. Third, work within a system that already has the architecture built, where all 3 axes are integrated, the program is built around your pipeline and specific calendar, and adjustments are made in real time based on real data. The third way doesn't remove the work, it avoids errors and replaces the time you currently spend managing 3 disconnected plans that don't talk to each other. When I understood the structural blind spot, the issue of the endurance threshold and being able to hold on, not just the peak, the question became, what would a system look like if it trained both? Existing programs train physical performance. Some add mentoring. None had built the 3 pillars into a single integrated system with real-time feedback. So we built it, the physical pillar, a full baseline assessment first, not a generic fitness test, but a structured evaluation of where you stand relative to what your specific selection requires. From there, a fully personalized programming cycle updated every week. Each phase has a specific goal: strength, endurance, explosiveness, resilience, periodized together, not in separate programs that don't communicate. The nutritional pillar, because what we've seen in France is that candidates failed not because they weren't strong enough, but because they lacked fuel at the wrong time. The nutritional strategy is integrated into the program from day one. Precise, adapted nutrition with a nutritional vision for recovery, managing multi-day trials adjusted throughout your preparation. The mental pillar, briefly, because that's trained through practice, not a course. Stress inoculation, attentional control under fatigue, the cognitive skills that selection actually measures. And beneath all that, direct daily access to your coach. All the coaches on our team are former Navy commandos, someone who's been through what you're preparing for and has been on the other side as an instructor, with weekly reviews, monthly data analysis, adjustments, and daily real-time feedback. A feedback loop that turns a program into a system. You don't show up to selection hoping to be ready. You show up with the proof that you are. Below this video, there's a link to apply. You fill out a short form, pick your slot, and we'll review your profile and situation together. We'll tell you honestly if the system is the right choice for you or if it's not. We don't take every candidate who applies, not because of artificial scarcity, but because the system requires real commitment, and a candidate who isn't ready to fully commit isn't well served by what we do. Apply via the link in the description. If you've watched this far, you've identified the blind spot. The question isn't whether you feel ready to start, it's whether the time between now and your selection is enough to build what you need. Waiting doesn't create preparation, it shrinks the window. The candidates who pass selections aren't the ones who train the hardest, they're the ones who built the right architecture early enough for it to count.